Hi, my name is Brianne Siderio, and this is my presentation for my plan of instruction for the Literacy Inquiry Project. My topic I chose was writing in kindergarten, and I chose to do that because it has been an issue in my school that myself and a lot of other teachers have been grappling with. We don't have a set writing curriculum in my school. We use a program for reading called Storytown, and it has a small portion of where it addresses writing, but it's not effective in the way it approaches it, how to teach the kindergarteners and other grade levels as well. There's just so many ways to teach writing out there, and I've been, researching this topic. I have a book on kid writing, teaching writing in kindergarten, Writer's Workshop, which we read, was so beneficial. I've looked into Lucy Calkins a little bit, but not until this project that I really, read more in depth into her work about launching Writer's Workshop. So I've been doing research on how to teach writing in kindergarten, and especially since we don't have an adopted approach, we as teachers at my school are free to teach writing how we would like. So I feel after this Literacy Inquiry Project, I feel like this is the way I'm going to go, Writer's Workshop in my classroom. But my school is going to be working on adopting an approach, and I think Writer's Workshop is the approach that they're going. So I'm really excited about that. So that's why I chose to do writing in kindergarten as my topic for this project. My first inquiry question was, what is the most effective way to teach writing in kindergarten? Now that's very, very broad. So as I did my research and as I kept learning along the way, I revised my inquiry question to a more smaller focus, which I'll get to in just a moment. But I just want to talk about my research article that I found and the critique of it. So the title of my research article was Comparing Two Methods of Writing Instruction, Effects on Kindergarten Students' Reading Skills. Now, it talked about two writing approaches, interactive writing, where the teacher writes and the students write as well. So it's like shared writing. They both share the pen. So they have like a big chart paper and they're both doing the writing together. But then it talked about Writer's Workshop, where the kids are doing all the writing and picking topics of their choice. But the article took these two approaches and wanted to see which approach was better, which one had a better effect on kindergarten reading acquisition growth in the three areas of phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge, and word reading. And the article was very, very informative, and I learned a lot about it. The study was done over 16 weeks. One group got the interactive writing, and one group got the Writer's Workshop, and they found that both had no significant impact on the kids, that they were both equally effective methods. So it brought a new view to me to see how reading acquisition growth and writing intertwine, but it also taught me about two approaches to writing, interactive writing and Writer's Workshop. And from there, then I pulled out, I think I want to take Writer's Workshop and I want to study that in more depth. So from that, then I revised my inquiry question, and my inquiry question now that I used when I wrote my plan of instruction was, how can Writer's Workshop be implemented at the beginning of the year in kindergarten? So now the focus is smaller and not as broad as my first question. So, getting right to my plan of instruction, I planned it out as so right here on my chart. For Writer's Workshop, the teacher always starts with a mini lesson. Well, she doesn't always start with a mini lesson. She could use it at the end of class or at the end of Writer's Workshop, or she could, do a mini lesson using students' work. But when you do a mini lesson, the teacher sketches an image. She does a think aloud. She labels things in her picture. She writes the story. She uses her mini lesson to teach specific skills. Then she lets the students write, and then she confers with the students, and then the students share. So there's a lot that goes into a writing workshop session. But next year, when I start in September with my kids, I'm going to start right off using Writer's Workshop. And what I would like to do is share this book with them on the first day. I found this book. I'm going to share it with my kids as soon as I have time to fit it in our busy schedule. but the book that I found is called Rocket Writes a Story, and it's just such a great story to introduce kids to writing. And in the story, I'm just going to read a little excerpt from it for you. This is how I would open up my first writing workshop session. In the story, the teacher, it's just so cute because it's the dog who's the student, and then this little tiny chick is his teacher. The dog's so big and the teacher's so small. But they have, you know, just like we have in our classrooms word walls, they have a word tree. So I just want to find that for you. They have a word tree. So any words that they see or collect, they write on a card and they include a picture at times. So they have a word tree. So Rocket is very familiar with words. And then one day he realizes that he wants to write a story. And these are the 2 pages in the book that really stick out to me, and I'm going to read them to you. It says, the next day, Rocket returned to his classroom. It was time to begin. He looked down at the blank page, and the blank page looked up at him. But no story would come. At snack time, Rocket gave up. I don't know what to write, he told his teacher. And that's just like, whoa, because that's what happens to kids. Sometimes they go, I don't know what to write. And I think a lot of kids will be able to relate to that. And then as the story goes on, it shows kids how Rocket found his inspiration to write. And I think, you know, it will help kids also find their inspiration to write a story as well from their personal life. So that would be my opener to the Writer's Workshop. And then as I would go into my mini lesson, the Writer's Workshop is where you just start writing. You just let kids just emerge right into the whole process of writing. You don't break anything down. You just show them how to write. So, for example, the other day when I was doing a mini lesson in my class, I just got in front of my kids and I just said, okay, we're going to write today. And Miss Siderio, what does she want to write about? And I started to think, and then I said, oh, I want to write about my grandpa because I miss him so much, because my grandpa passed away in November, and the kids know that. And they said, oh, well, you miss him. And I said, yeah, I miss him. I said, you know what? I used to love how he used to go out to breakfast. I'm going to write about that. So what I did first is I sketched my image of my grandpa and I sitting at the diner eating breakfast, and then I, you know, sketched how he would have eggs and tomatoes, and then how I would have an omelet and some fried potatoes, and the kids just, you know, they were giggling and they thought it was so funny. And then I started to think aloud, and I started to talk about, you know, what we would do at breakfast, and I verbally, you know, told them what we would get to eat, what we would talk about. And then I labeled things in my pictures, and then I just wrote my whole story out about my grandpa and I sharing breakfast together. And the kids were they just loved it, and they could relate to it, and some of them would tell me, oh, I go out with my grandma, I go out with my grandpa, so it sparked some ideas. So I was like, yes, you know, this could get the ideas for them to, you know, put in their own writing. So then after I did my little mini lesson, I really didn't have a specific skill. I wasn't addressing you know, spacing or how to add, you know, more descriptive words in it. I wasn't, you know, addressing a skill like capitalization, punctuation. I was just addressing how to come up with an idea and put it down on paper. Then I unleashed my students to go do their own work, and they did a really good job. I wish I had some of their work samples here to show you, but there's not enough time in the presentation. But as the students were writing, then, you know, I conferred with them. I just didn't go and, like, sit down and go on my computer. I walked to each table, and, you know, I don't judge unless they're writing something that's inappropriate, but I just walked around and I said, oh, what are you writing about? And I gave them praise. I said, oh, I really liked how you did that, or I liked how you did this. And, you know, if I had to give suggestions, like, why don't you try this? Like, I didn't tell them do this. I just said, why don't you try this? And, this is something I don't have, but in Writing Workshop it says when you confer, you should take notes. So I have a little notebook that I'll probably get for each student, and when I'm conferring with them, I can write notes because this will help me learn about their writing, you know, because I can't remember what each student is doing. Also, you know, a folder to keep their work in, it suggests, and then it says to have them use black marker to sketch out the picture, and they can also do the writing in black marker or pen or pencils. It's up to the student's preference. And we have Smart Start paper in our school, and the Smart Start paper has like the lines with the dotted line in the middle, and that's more, I feel, for like handwriting. because writing workshops suggest that you just have paper, space for their picture, and then just lines. So the students aren't so much worried about their handwriting. It's more about content than handwriting. So this is paper. That's the paper we use. Maybe I could, use my own paper, put that in there. But after, you confer with the students, then it's share time, and you can't have every student share the whole time. So I know when I read the writer's workshop, I can have like a list, and X, Y, and Z can share one day, and the 3 others can share the next day. Because I think it's really important that kids, share their drawings with students and can read back what they wrote, and they can learn from each other. And I would probably conduct, 3 sessions. Session 1 would take 1 to 2 days in the beginning of the year. Session 2 would take 2 days, and session 3 would take 2 days. At first, I was going to have maybe a unit where they would write about, things I did over the summer, or things I like to do, or all about my family. But then I said, no, they need to choose the topics. That's what Writer's Workshop is all about. Let them choose it. I don't think there's anything wrong with choosing a unit of writing that you want them to, do. Like, let's write about holidays, and then they can choose the topics within the holidays. But they really should be choosing anything from any aspect of their life. So, to just go back to my plan of instruction, they should begin writing from the beginning of the year. We want to introduce the students to the act of writing, indulge them in the entire process of writing. Let them choose their own topics. My goals for my plan of instruction are to model how to choose a topic, sketch it, write a tiny bit about it, allow students to apply the stated mini lessons above, confer with students, and let students share their writing. And my objectives would be students, will be able to choose a topic, students will be able to sketch a drawing that corresponds to their topic, and students will be able to write about their topic using letters, words, short phrases, or sentences. So the mini lesson should take about 5 to 10 minutes. It shouldn't be more than 5 to 10 minutes. And then letting the students apply themselves, that should be the meat of Writer's Workshop, where they're working. That should take about 35 to 40 minutes. And, it depends on, it could get kind of noisy in there, but it depends on the teacher, where I tell my students, good writers think, they don't talk. They think and they write, they don't talk. But sometimes I'll see them like conferring with another student. Another student might be helping them spell a word, or they might be sharing their writing, and that's okay. That's okay by me as well. And then sharing should take 10 to 15 minutes, and like I said, you can't have every student share, so you make a chart. You make a list up, and so they learn how to take turns. So going back to my plan of instruction, that's how I would open it. I have an activity that I would end it, but just in case students have trouble thinking of a topic, I want them to create a memory bag. It doesn't have to be I would probably tell the parents, put it in like a Ziploc plastic, like a large Ziploc plastic bag. But, if they were having so much trouble coming up with a topic, and I was trying to help them, and their classmates are trying to help them, and they just couldn't think of a topic, they could go to their memory bag. So I just made a little memory bag that I could use to help me think of things I want to write about. So like my bag right here could be a topic. Kindergarten teachers have heart. I could write tons and tons of stories about things that have happened in kindergarten thus far in my 2 years of teaching it. In here I have, a rose. Roses mean a lot to me in my life, and I could write about, why roses have such a significant meaning. I have a wedding dress. I mean, I'm not engaged to get married, but I do have hopes of getting married, and I could, write about, things about my future wedding. I put my shirt from graduation in here when I graduated in 2011, and I could talk about so many things from, graduation to my graduation party, which brings me to my sparkly shoe, because I had to do what party for my graduation party. I have, St. Teresa, Mary Religious. I could talk about her. I have a bracelet that my best friend bought me, and I could talk about, the day he gave it to me, how excited I was. I have a charm necklace, and I could talk about the meaning of my charm necklace. And then I just have so much more. I have, and pictures. I would tell the parents to put pictures in their memory bag, of like a vacation that they went to, or them and their friend, because that would really spark, memories and topics they could write about. So I have my first day of kindergarten, my ballroom teacher when I did ballroom dancing, my grandparents. I could talk about, you know, my grandpa, my mom, my dad, my sister, anyone in my family. That was Thanksgiving Day. I could talk about Thanksgiving Day from last year. A picture of my sister and I, many memories of my sister. Or I could talk about my best friend. She passed away December 2011. I could talk about her, or I could talk about, you know, my experience of sponsoring a little girl from Guatemala, because I did that memory of my friend who was from Guatemala. So a memory bag, I think, would be a great way when a student is stuck to get them thinking and to pick a topic, so they're just not looking at a blank paper like Rocket was in the story. And then after I go through the whole process, I probably would do this when maybe a couple times. Maybe when I had time, I would do this at the end of, you know, particular sessions of writing workshop. I would do a thinking cap activity. So I was even thinking too, before I presented this, that I would probably wear my thinking cap at the beginning of writer's workshop and tell the kids, okay, Miss Siderio, she's putting her thinking cap on. Okay, she needs to think of what she's going to write about now. So I thought that would be a cute idea. And then at the end, you know, I could say, okay, Miss Siderio's going to get her thinking cap, and, you know, let's think about things we could write about next time. And then in my thinking cap, I would have, you know, I would have broader topics that I would pick out, and I would pick them out, and I would go, okay, well, this one says people in the neighborhood. What does anyone have any experiences that, you know, they've had with people in their neighborhood? Maybe a mailman, someone at their local bakery, you know, a firefighter, and then see what students' experiences they could share in the classroom. And then another topic could be, oh, the weather. Does anyone have any experience with the weather? Oh, when it was a really rainy day, when they went outside to play in the rain, or when there was a thunderstorm and they were really scared, or when it was a really sunny day and they went to the beach. So just generating topics, I think, would be a wonderful activity to do every now and then, so we can keep topics flowing, because that's what Writer's Workshop is all about: content and getting students to write from their own life experiences. And I'm almost done. To close my whole presentation, I just want to talk about some things that I really learned from this whole experience of the Literacy Inquiry Project. You know, you have to get kids to think. You don't want to think for them. You have to get them to think. You want them to write about real life things that really mean something to them. That's going to motivate and engage them, rather than telling them what to write about. Also, I think there's nothing wrong with writing nonfiction. Like, they don't always have to write about things that are real. Like, they could be storytellers and make up fantasies and fairy tales. And like, when I was in 5th grade, I wrote a fantasy called The Odd Irish of Ireland, and it really it'll let them dive into their imagination and creativity. Conferring with students is so important, because it's letting me have that one-on-one time with them to really assess their writing and really learn from them. Sharing is so important to, you know, have that form that classroom environment where it's a sense of community. And children, you know, I'm so worried, like, oh, they have to capitalize the first letter of the sentence, they have to put a period at the end, they need to do spaces, they need to do this and that. Well, I just think through the mini lessons, children will eventually learn the concepts of print, and they will learn the specific skills that you're focusing on by doing actual writing, teaching it through actual writing instead of in isolation. I think it's okay to do things in isolation, but you need a good mixture. And I think that, you know, content is very important. Some teachers stress handwriting, 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 but if the kids are so focused on handwriting, they might lose the focus of content. So that's why I think, you know, papers without those lines would be better. You know, they could really focus on content and not their handwriting. I think, you know, handwriting should be addressed in another session of time, not, you know, during Writer's Workshop. And the whole Writer's Workshop, the mini lesson should be 5 to 10 minutes. The students' writing should be about 35, and the share should be 10 to 15 minutes. And when it all comes down to it, I have so much more to learn. When it all comes down to it, we need to make kids love to write. And by showing them your enthusiasm about writing, they're going to show that same enthusiasm back. And last year and this year, I've never really had, I might have had 1 or 2 kids go, oh, I hate to write. And some of them were like my struggling readers and writers, because, you know, they were already struggling in those areas. But mostly, you know, my kids are excited. Yeah, I want to write. I can't wait to put, you know, what I did over the weekend down on paper, or what I did last night. And, you know, I also learned that, you know, I'm always like, right, like when they leave kindergarten, they need to know how to write at least 1 to 2 sentences. But, you know, pictures are fine because they're emergent writers. So expressing their writing through pictures is just as well. And even labeling is, you know, a great step forward for an emergent writer. So I still have lots to learn, but I found this project to be very, very helpful in my venture to approach Writers Workshop in my classroom. Okay, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. Bye.